Hey, this is Meredith Elliott Powell, and welcome to A Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to be more effective at sales. So, Mark, what do we have on tap for today?
We have on tap a great topic, top strategies to create a sales culture. We've got a great question that came in from a new sales leader. We got a great book we're going to highlight and a lightning round. So, hey, why don't we roll the video?
Sounds good.
Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
Welcome again to Sales Logic. Mark, you highlighted we've got a really strong show today, a lot to be talking about and a lot to discuss, but it's been a busy sales week. How are things in Dallas, Texas?
It has been a busy week. And the topic this week really fits in because I've had a lot of conversations with sales leaders, not just here in Dallas, but around the world on this very topic. Hey, have you been home? You've been on the road or what?
Yeah, I've been, I just got home. I'm headed back out again on Sunday. It's odd, sales used to be cyclical, but now it seems that just doesn't make any sense. I've got a really busy July and a really busy August, a couple of months that used to be a little bit slower. But I had somebody asking me yesterday, I had a quick meeting with my investment advisor. She said, how are you finding business? And I said, it's interesting. Everybody's worried about what's coming, what's happening. A lot of the challenges in the marketplace don't seem to be getting any better, yet business remains strong. Consumers are spending, businesses are growing, and things seem to be, at least for now, remaining busy and fairly hot.
I find the same thing. Everybody's just a little bit cautious. Hey, what should be an alternate plan if we have to go to it? But boy, I tell you what, customers are responding out there. There's a tremendous amount of sales happening out there. And what I find also is there's still a tremendous amount of hiring. In the news, there's been some people, been layoffs and so forth. Man, I'm finding sales organizations looking for great talent. It never ends. They keep looking for it.
Well, I would definitely say that. I mean, if you are a talented sales individual, it's why I think sales is such a great profession, because if you are a talented sales individual, you are going to work. But Mark, tell us what the question is today.
The question comes from, and I hope I pronounce her name right, Diara from Istanbul. She says, I'm fairly new in my role, 1 year, and I'm still struggling to build a sales culture. The sales team is on board, but how do I get customer service, operations, and purchasing to understand they are in sales? Wow, that was a conversation I had this week too. Jump in.
I think I love this question and I love this topic, because if you are going to be effective at sales today, I think one of the biggest changes and one of the biggest challenges for sales professionals is that understanding you can't be an island unto yourselves these days. I mean, if the rest of your team is not engaged and not bought into sales, then you're going to be in trouble, because the experience isn't going to be good for customers. So I would say, as a sales leader, the number one thing that you need to do is to begin to build the relationships with those other divisions. You need to help your team understand why those departments are critical, why they matter, and why they're important to the sales process. But you also need to go and help those other teams understand the same thing, why they matter, why they're important, and clearly define their role in sales.
That is so true. I always compliment them on how they helped close a deal. Share with them the details, share with them the information, make them be part of the story, make them be part of the success. And as you're doing that, be asking them, hey, how can we help you do your job better? Because again, remember, it's a two-way street. So you want them really being part of your sales culture, but you want them you want to be part of their sales culture. That's the way you create one sales culture of everybody helping each other.
Yeah, I also think that you need to help them feel the rewards and the benefits. So as much as you do to reward your sales team and get your sales team, give them the kudos for the deals that they land, you need to find the ways and do the things that need to be done to give people the reward that they deserve, the good news, make them feel a part of the sales process and help them understand the difference they make in customers' lives.
One of the best ways to do that is a couple dozen Krispy Kreme donuts. years ago. I mean, I used to every month or so walk over to sales, customer service department and bring them a couple dozen donuts. And you know what? It was amazing how they love me and they love my team. And, some of those simple things, it's just acknowledging that they're part of the family.
I also think that use the CEO and your C-suite executives. I used to get my C-suite executives to write thank you notes to the operations and the customer service team for when they had really done something to either identify a new opportunity or save a customer who was unhappy. But if they know that the C-suite executives are looking and that they value that, they'll do more of it.
And that includes, when the CEO takes the time to call out sales, hey, congratulations on this quarter. Make sure that they also call out those other departments that helped it. In other words, make everybody part of the celebration. Because I'll tell you what, at the end of the day, if you're in customer service and you're in operations, you can feel pretty lonely.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're just getting beat up because, salespeople they're out there making commitments that we can't deliver, and no, I want them on the same team.
Yeah, you're bringing up such a great point. I mean, the other thing that you ought to do is you should have meetings that involve the entire sales team, right? Get the, when you have a sales meeting, at least once a month, bring those other departments in there so you can have a conversation about what you want the entire sales process and sales experience to look like from start to finish. And Mark, I would also say, you brought up the kind of the rub between the two areas. Acknowledge that and just work to make it better. Do an autopsy on some of the challenges that have happened in the last couple of months and talk about what you could do to improve the process. How could they work better together?
And I always say, let them sit in on some sales calls. Let them actually hear what's going on out there. If you travel out on the road, and you could take one of those people with you on a couple of calls, do that. In fact, here's something that I find very, very interesting. And I don't know if you ever noticed that, but you're doing you're part of a sales kickoff meeting. You're part of a sales meeting and it's salespeople in the room and we're talking sales, but then you see purchasing people there because they want to figure out what are salespeople talking about. I'm always amazed at organizations that do that. And I compliment them because in other words, hey, it's a two-way street. If I'm in sales, I want to understand what's purchasing doing, my own purchasing department doing, because the more I understand them, the better I can do my job and the same thing for them. Again, it's a two-way street.
Absolutely. And I think you need to do a big sales job with your sales team. I mean, one thing that we love about sales teams is that we're confident. We believe, we understand our value. We see immediate return on investment from what we do. A lot of times, though, we can be a little cocky and we can think that we're more important than other divisions in the organization. If you can convince your sales team that the very first sale they need to make is to their internal departments, that how vital they are to their success, and the better they build relationships there, the easier it is going to be for customers. The easier and better experience it is for customers, the more you're going to sell to existing customers and the better experience people are going to have long term.
I got to share a quick story. Company names will go unnamed, but I was talking with a sales leader this week, and he said, "We're just struggling. We're just struggling." And I said, "Well, let me make some other phone calls." So he introduced me to the head of their onboarding, customer service, customer support, customer success. And I was talking to the person. I said, "How much interaction do you have with sales?" "Oh, we take all of our feedback and we always put it in the system. And so it always goes over to sales. I go, okay, that's interesting. We have a phone call. So and then I get back on the phone with the VP of sales. We've never seen that data. We've never seen that data. So here's what was interesting was, customer service, customer success, all these departments, they thought all their information was getting put into the system and shared back with sales. I still don't know where it was going, but clearly sales wasn't seeing it. And you know what? It's interesting, but that organization's struggling. They're not connecting because the salespeople don't understand fully what the customer's expectations are after the sale is made. Major disconnect when it comes to sales culture.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest ways, though, that you need to engage the support teams is identifying new opportunities. Whenever I go in and I work with a team, clearly defining those roles. I really want sales professionals out finding new opportunities. They're the ones who either virtually or physically leave the building, and it is their role to do that. If you can tune the support teams in to listening, and when they're talking to existing customers, especially if existing customers have a problem, it's one of the best times to identify opportunities. So again, I go back to clearly identifying those roles. What is my role in the sales process as an operations person? What is my role in the sales process as customer service or as purchasing? Get that down so that everybody understands how they work together.
I have seen some companies where sales support, whatever you want to call it, actually has a quota. Now,
Wow.
there's pros and cons on both sides. Okay. Now, in this organization where I saw it, it was actually a pro because they had the ability to upsell and it really worked well. I'm not advocating that for everybody. This is kind of one of those unique situations, but you have to be willing to think outside the box. But what I found in this company, these people all work together. You talk about a sales culture. Wow.
Yeah.
They were connected at the hip. They did everything. They had all their meetings were always together, whether it was the Monday morning stand-up meeting or their quarterly review meetings. They were all done together. And I like that. Hey, we should kind of migrate over. Of course, we're talking a little bit about the question,
Yeah.
topic, top strategies to create a sales culture. So what are some things you've seen out there?
Well, first, one of the most important is I think you need to define your sales culture. You need to define what it is, what you want it to look like, and describe it. Mark, I think it's important to note that if you haven't done that, don't think you don't have a sales culture, because whether you define it or not, you have one. And the reason you want to define it is because you want to make sure it's the sales culture that you want, for your internal sales teams, for your sales reps, as well as your customers.
Yeah. Culture is like oxygen. It's out there, whether
Yeah.
or not you see it or not, it's out there. But okay, now here's a question. Should the sales culture be different than the company culture?
Oh, that's a good
Oh,
question.
I got you thinking on that one.
Yeah. I don't think it's different. I mean, I think that it has to be aligned. But it is different in the sense that it's directly related to sales, not just the culture overall, but it has to be aligned. Like you can't have a culture that is, customers first, and we take care of, our own customers and make sure that it's a deep and a lifelong relationship. And then have your sales culture be, we chase new business. They have to be in alignment, but it is a little different because it is totally related to the sales process.
Okay, I was just about ready to challenge you, but you came back around. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, now, because and I like what you said. First of all, when you're defining culture, it's customer first, company second, and yourself third. And especially when it comes to sales. Now, I believe this. Now, here's the reason I believe this. It is so easy for salespeople to get commission breath. We have a good friend, Larry Levine, who loves talking about commission breath. And you got to make sure that you park that in the corner. You got to park that in the corner. And I found if you take care of the customer first and you line them up with what the company can deliver, it's amazing how you'll take care of yourself. So I agree with you totally. They are aligned, but I think the sales culture can be a little bit more robust and defined because it is a more competitive environment. It is a more inquisitive environment. It is a more, we're going to go out and we're going to challenge and take everything we can out there. So it's defined just a little bit differently in terms of aggressiveness versus what finance. I don't want a finance department that's super aggressive. Okay. I want them taking care of the numbers. I don't know. Thoughts on that?
Well, I think that, yeah, I mean, I think that. I think defining your sales culture begins with hiring your salespeople according to your culture. I mean, Mark, when you talk a lot about commission and things like that, I mean, one of the most difficult things that I ever had to do was to let go of one of our number one salespeople. I mean, she won every contest, she won everything we had, but she was so not aligned with our values and so not aligned with our culture. And Oh, go ahead.
No, I totally, that had to be hard to do.
Yeah. I mean, it was very difficult to do, but she just, at the end of the day, she was successful. She figured out how to play the game, but she wasn't conveying the experience for our customers or for the other reps. So I felt like she was negatively impacting my ability to get the other reps to be as successful as they needed to be and as they could be. So I think culture begins with you got to make sure the individual is aligned with the culture.
I like that because that person that you fired, what was that person doing? Probably leaving a trail of chaos.
Exactly.
Because that person was making all kinds of expectations, all kinds of things out there, and it just wasn't happening. Now, there's something very, very interesting here, because when you talk about culture, and I'd be curious, does a strong culture help an organization be more profitable? I think it does, because I think people are more in tune with the organization and they value the organization more. So I think a strong culture helps the profitability, helps both the bottom line, and I think it helps the top line. I don't know if you agree, disagree, thoughts?
I completely agree with that. I think the challenge with it, though, is that is why a lot of people give up on it. It's in the hidden growth and the hidden costs. With the right culture, you won't have as much turnover. With the right culture, you'll retain customers longer. With the right culture, you'll be able to go deeper and wider. And here's where the rub comes in. So many companies and so many sales teams. In fact, I've got a company where we're trying to make this shift right now, is that every sales leader is measured by the numbers they put on the board every month versus what they do by the end of the year. And if you're going to run it based on the numbers that you put up monthly, it's hard to stay aligned to your culture, because if I have to put numbers on the board monthly, I'm finding the fastest route to those numbers. Now, that prevents you from reaching the ultimate profitability and growth and efficiency that you could grow long-term if you stayed according to your culture.
Yeah. Now, I'll push back just a little bit on that, because, I think it comes down to how are we managing the pipeline? In other words, and what's the sales process? What's the close cycle? Et cetera, et cetera. I agree with you fundamentally, but I think there are organizations that can have a monthly number and really have a great culture. What's interesting is, I think when you have a great culture, customers see it.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I'm going to push back to you. I think that the moment the monthly number is the most important thing, the sales leader shifts their focus to the monthly number and away from the development of the employees. And culture thrives when a leader is most focused on developing their people. I see it happen all the time. And they versus if you can be more of a quarterly focus and more of an annual focus, you're going to give more room for that culture to thrive. And I think that you're going to give more. I think you're going to be surprised by the amount of profitability that's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, you can push back, and I'll push back a little bit, because this is where I believe, are we truly putting customers first? Mm-hmm. Because if we're putting customers first, if that deal's not going to close this month, it's not going to close this month. And again, it comes back to how big is your pipeline? if you have, and as a leader, if you're managing and leading your organization, you're developing your people to have that robust pipeline, and you've got customers in there at every stage, you're able to deliver your numbers. Because, I mean, for many publicly traded companies, you've got to deliver the monthly number, or guess what? You just don't survive.
Right.
So, I mean, you can't forget it totally. You know, it just doesn't work. But great conversation. Hey, time is slipping away. We
I
should
know.
jump into the book. Hey, you know what? I saw Larry. We got a great book, Larry Long Jr. He didn't give me a copy of his book.
I
Did he
can't
give you a
believe that.
copy of his book?
I really can't believe it. Yes, his book is Jolt, and it is Get Zapped into Intentionality, Rediscover and Believe in Your Inner Greatness. It is really the substance. I love that we're talking about culture today, and I chose Jolt for this very reason. As you can see, it's not a huge book. It's a fairly easy read, but what Larry really focused in on this book is what you need to do to develop yourself from a confident, a belief, and an energy standpoint to be a more significant, valuable, and successful sales speaker. He talks a lot about his own journey in here, which is really very powerful and very helpful. The thing I love about Larry is that not only is he a ball of energy and excitement, but also he really has had rapid success. And if you follow his strategies, it certainly is going to shorten your journey into going from wherever you are now to taking it to another level.
He has such a great personal culture. He's gregarious,
Yes.
charismatic. He's out there. And you know what? Customers, as a result, are attracted to him. So, okay, when we get done here, I'm calling Larry. I'm saying, Larry, send me that book because I don't have a copy of it. So anyway, hey, lightning round.
Sounds good.
Top 10 ways to deepen customer relationships. Go.
Top 10 ways to deepen customer relationships. Number 1 is focus on the right customers. If you want to deepen relationships, you need to be focused on the right customers to deepen them with.
Number 2, celebrate their success. Pay attention to their own business or their own lives and celebrate their success with them.
Now, don't assume you know what they need. Really, really listen to them.
Respect them both professionally and personally. Customer relationships, wow, they can go very deep. And again, there's nothing wrong with that in terms of developing personal relationships with them.
Be open to helping them beyond the products or services that you sell. Be open to listening to the problems and challenges that they face and finding opportunities and solutions for them.
And add to that, don't hesitate to connect them with other people who they should be working with or other people who they could benefit from. It's so interesting. You give out a referral because you may know that they need something. Well, guess what? You can refer them to somebody else who who can help them.
Yeah, and kind of along those lines, invite them to events and networking, networking events, places where they can go to meet the right people to grow and expand their business. Not every connection needs to be sales related.
I love that. Hey, as you're working with them, celebrate the anniversary of how many years you've been working with them or whatever. Take the time. It's okay. Congratulate them. Thank them.
Send them business. You want them to invest in growing your business, invest in growing their business.
Make sure you understand what their goals are. Because, going back to Zig Ziglar, the best way to accomplish your goals is to help other people achieve their goals. Hey, why don't you throw out one more? I'll throw out one more and we'll kind of close the show down.
Yeah, go beyond the person that you're selling with. Know who the players are in the company and get to know the company at every level. Make sure that you're 5 to 6 deep relationships and connections within the organization.
And I'll say, never stop staying in contact with them. It is so easy for customers. You just kind of fall out of the way and you're not connecting with them enough. And like you said, going deep enough. So anyway, hey, great show today. We want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, hey, consider telling a friend, would you, please? Because it's how we grow when we help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
and the sale becomes logical.
All right. Mark and I are going to be doing a special show this week, one extra. We're going to do one at 4:00 Eastern on Wednesday afternoon. And so be looking for the updates and the notes on that. And until then, if you've got a question you want to engage, we would love to have you here on Sales Logic. Just go to saleslogicpodcast.com, reach out to Mark, reach out to me, send your question. And until then, hope you close a lot of deals.